Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for the 2021 ITS UK Awards, the ITS UK President, Steve Norris.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be here at this extraordinary event. The idea that people are actually watching this around the world is kind of not only vaguely scary, it kind of makes me wonder whether they get out enough. I also thought, if you didn't mind, I've been president for life, as you probably know. I mean, my predecessor died in office, he was the first president, and I assumed that we continue the same practice. So I thought it might be an idea just to sort of, remind you why this old geezer comes up as, president of ITS UK. I mean, I suppose my understanding of ITS started when I was a minister for transport in John Major's government. Anybody old enough to remember John Major? Okay, no, I won't go down that road. And I loved transport because it was a very practical kind of department where you actually did things, you actually made things happen, you built things. And in my case, for example, my proudest boast was building the Jubilee Line extension, getting that through the Treasury, who hated it because they hate spending of any kind. And, it's opened up, I'm just talking to colleagues here, opened up part of East London that previously only dragons lay. And now, of course, it's massively vibrant, helped, I might say, by Ken Livingstone's decision to place the Olympics there, and it opened it up even further. I mean, London's changed enormously in that time. And I had a special responsibility for London, which made it even better. I mean, I started life, funny enough, as an MP in a site, in a constituency I never thought I would win. It was called Oxford East. It's the rough half of Oxford. I can say that now because somebody else represents it. But we used to call the university, the Cowley Latin Quarter. And it was a very, very obviously not Tory seat. I was Conservative. But that was the year Mrs. Thatcher won everything, and so I was horrified to find that I'd won. I'd expected to just do a good job and then go back to my business. I remember having a conversation with the chief exec that night, and I rang him up. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning when results come out, And I said, Tony, we've got to talk. He said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, I know. He said, I've got a problem. He said, what? Is the garage on fire? Because I had a couple of motor businesses. He said, no. I said, I've won. He said, oh, go to bed. I said, no, I've won, I promise. I mean, he said, don't be silly. I said, go and switch the telly on. It says Oxford East, Con Gain, which is crazy. Anyway, I have to say just after that, we'd go to these odd little cocktail parties where, nice people would come up and say, congratulations, they said, we never thought you'd do it. And they always said it in the tone of voice that implied if they had thought I was going to do it, they'd have picked a better candidate, which was a bit of a problem. But I then, after I lost Oxford East in 1987, how many people were born after 1987? Yep, for the viewers at home, quite a few. I then got a very safe seat called Epping Forest, Towie. The only way is Essex, that was me. Chigwell, Alan Sugar was one of my least favourite constituents because, it's only billionaires that can afford to vote Labour these days. Anyway, they, of course, marvellous. That was where they didn't bother to count the Tory vote, they just weighed it. Said it's a lot, and nobody else is even remotely close. Again, I was reassured by one of my favourite constituents, who said, don't worry, Steve, he said, they vote for a Tory round here if it's just a chimpanzee with a blue ribbon around its neck. I thought that's really encouraging. Thanks for the support. Anyway, after Parliament, I retired to spend more time with my money, which seemed to me to be much more sensible than going to the family, because they would never, ever have wanted me back. That proved very successful, but I'm afraid when the first mayoral election was touted by the Labour government, I thought it was a very good idea. I'd thought in the years that I was effectively London Minister that that's what we needed. And so by a whole variety of coincidences, I ended up as the candidate twice against my old friend Ken Livingstone. and my score is about the same as some of the England football managers, played to, lost to, but still better than some. And I have to say we got on terrifically well. I had a lot of respect for him. I still think he's the best mayor so far in London by a country mile. And it was odd, really, because we were both, working class kids. He was born in London. I was born in the north. And, actually, what's strange is that one of us, I should say we were born exactly the same month, just after the Second War ended. Not the Boer War, incidentally, the Second War. It's strange, isn't it, how one of us ended up sort of slightly to the right of Genghis Khan and the other ones to the left of Karl Marx. And how did that happen? And the irony is, I was the real working class kid. I mean, my mum used to have to pull the bath out into the front room when my dad came home every night from work and literally just sort of get the soot out of his shoulders and his back and his hair and all the rest of it, piling the old hot water into the tin bath in the middle of the room, which is odd, really, because he was an accountant. Anyway, look, sorry. But I was just going to say my interest in ITS was lodged early because in the early 90s, which was the period of time that I took over, frankly, ITS would have meant very little to even the few people who might even recognize what we were talking about. But it was pretty obvious that technology was going to be the driver of future change in the way that we made cities function. And so I was, I think, the first minister who actually took ITS UK seriously. Jenny and I probably met not long after that original introduction to ITS, and I've been a huge supporter and encourager of it ever since, quite seriously, because I think the work that we do, getting the jobs without people to the people without jobs, making a city livable, is incredibly important. 70% of the world's population is going to live in cities by the end of the decade. And what ITS can do is to make their lives infinitely more livable than would be the case otherwise. We only travel to arrive. Travel is just a necessity in our lives to connect all the things that really matter to us: our home, our job, our leisure, our retail, if you like, our friends and neighbours. All of these things are connected, and how we connect them and the use of transportation in the process of doing that is incredibly important. So I've been privileged to be involved with 3 private ITS businesses. One was ITIS Holdings, which was a business that's now owned by, who's Inrix. Danny Woolard, I don't know if Danny's gone home. Here he is, he hasn't gone home. Danny and I met in about 98, I would say, in 1998. We had the distinction of raising a huge amount of money on the AIM market for our company, and a fortnight later, the entire tech bubble was punctured, and our shares probably dropped more than any other share I've ever been associated with, and God knows I made some bad choices ever. But in the end, we did a very, very good job. That's, of course, integrated traffic information. It's Sally with the traffic, and pretty much everybody knows Inrix. The second was the average speed camera, because I'd launched the first spot camera only after a fight with the police, who wanted not to say where the cameras were so they could catch people. And we had to say, no, we're not going to catch them. We want to stop them killing themselves. So please, 2 things that are still true today. You've got to sign every camera. You've got to let people know where every camera is. And what's more, you've got to paint the back of the camera fluorescent yellow so that they're always recognizable, because I want you to know the bloody camera's there, so slow down, you idiot. And if you're still an idiot, well, you deserve to get fined. But the problem was on the motorways, and particularly a motorway problem, we were getting more deaths from road workers than we were getting in accidents. And it was a real problem because vehicles were travelling through the area, maybe a single lane on a 3-lane where 2 lanes had been taken off, where people were going through far too fast. So I had a talk with some technical experts around this idea of saying, why can't we just say, don't go too fast between there and there? Which is what people like me say, and some very, very, very clever people took a couple of years to get to the point where we got Home Office type approval for what was in those days called Speed Check Services, and is now, of course, Genoptic. And my old friend Jeff Collins was here earlier. He's obviously buggered off when he heard I was speaking, but we built that business, and it's now, of course, called Genoptic. The interesting thing about that is that we really rarely ever find anybody. Because unlike flashing single shot cameras, the old Gatsos, people aren't stupid. Even White Van Man knows if he goes too fast between that point over there and that point over there, he's going to get a ticket, so he doesn't. He might go through the first camera a bit fast, and then when he realizes, he'll slow down, he's not stupid. And our problem, believe it or not, was just one period during the Labour government years where they decided that they would fund safety camera partnerships run by local authorities from fine revenue. So we used to go along and make a bid to provide camera security for a particular city, and they'd say, we love what you do, we think it's great, but you're of no interest to us because you don't raise us any money. And I went to see the then Secretary of State for Transport, and Alistair Darling, one of the very best, and said, Alistair, this is just wrong. And between us, we agreed that actually you've got to disconnect the money you get from fining people from what it is they've done. And that's a principle that's really important. Once we did that, the company really took off, and it saves lives. Ironically, it's the best kind of camera system because nobody gets to fall foul of it. And the third company that I was involved in is this one, Cubic. When I joined Cubic, it had just lost its founder, Walter J. Zabel, who had the distinction of being the oldest president, chairman, and chief executive of a listed company, probably in the history of the world, certainly in the history of the United States, because he was 97. At 97, he used to come into the office every day. He ran the company, which he continued to own. He'd founded it, continued to own 40% of it, so nobody was going to try and take him over. He paid his mates. He paid a few golf mates, actually, to be on the board. He hated governance. He thought the worst decision he ever made was when he went public, and so he just ignored all the rest and just carried on as a private company. I joined the board just after he died, when the company needed to raise some capital and needed an expert in transportation, because ironically they had a defence division. They still have a defence division as well as a transport division. I remember not long after I got there, the company got a letter from the Californian Teachers Pension Fund, who said, we hold 5 million of your shares, and we note that your board is entirely male, pale, and stale, which was absolutely true. And they wrote back, and I promise you this is true, they wrote back and they said, yes, we do realise a slight lack of diversity, but don't worry, because we've just appointed an alien. It's the first and only time I've been a member of a minority. Well, actually, my mother would say second time, but that's another matter. But seriously, it was a very old business, valued at the time on the stock exchange at about $1 billion. And we sold it in May of this year for $3 billion after we'd cleaned it up. And I might say I'm proud of the fact that the board now, at the point at which we sold, consisted of 4 men and 4 women, with 2 ethnic minority members, and a wonderful composition of real quality people. Taught me a lot, and I think is a great lesson for the world. In any event, I just want to say, as we start the kind of formal event, thanks to Cubic for letting us meet here today. I know that'll have been said before, but it's great that they've bothered to do it, and I'm very grateful to them. I'm also, in a sense, sorry that we couldn't have today's awards along with a dinner. because traditionally that's been how we've run these awards. Hopefully we're going to do that in the middle of next year with any luck, when we can be safe, that life can really get back to normal. As a US company, of course, you'll see the standards of preventative care in this building are very different from what will probably be the case in most UK-owned businesses, but again, better safe than sorry. So let me just, if I can, go through to our first award. And the first award is the Inclusive Mobility Award. Forgive me for reading some of these things, but I don't want to get it wrong, and I want to make sure that the right people get the right awards. We had shortlisted entries, Clearview Intelligence for their solar road studs, and Unex Traffic for their support of local communities. And the winner, and I'll ask you to stay seated until I've read, if you like, the commendation, and Jenny gets up and hands me the right piece of, well, what should we say, sapphire? Let's just leave it at that. But the winner is, round of applause, Unex Traffic. And just say the projects included a number of initiatives to support communities who weren't getting their usual support during the pandemic, including building a pedestrian crossing on the campus of a school, providing a learning environment for people with special educational needs, and installing a remote push-button pedestrian crossing unit to help train an assistance dog to learn when to cross at a crossing during its training. Because, it's one of the key elements of training a guide dog, and they actually, put this kit in on their own initiative to help in that process, which I think is wonderful. So I was going to invite Matthew, Vincent, and Colin Thurber to come forward. I think Colin may still be here. There we go. Matthew is. Matthew, come up and get your award. Here we go. Very well done. I think we'll take the photographs afterwards.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, well, come and say a couple of words.
So I was asked to keep it short, so I will. Often, as an ITS industry, we talk about technology. Not very often do we talk about the people. So this is about all the people who do wonderful things in our industry, helping others, giving up their time and their expertise. So on behalf of Darwin, the dog, my colleagues at Unex Traffic, and colleagues in the ITS industry who are giving up their time and their expertise to help others, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, our second award, which is for the innovative use of technology. The shortlisted entries were live bus occupancy information for passengers by Transport Scotland, Travel Line Scotland and Trapeze Group. NEV FMA, the Network Emissions and Vehicle Flow Management Adjustment Project. AIMSUM, supported by EarthSense, Unex Traffic and Oxfordshire County Council for Highways England. Then a video analytics service platform, VASP, by Costain. And then the judges highly commended Costain for the VASP project, but the winner is AIMSUM for NEV FMA, the Network Emissions and Vehicle Flow Management Adjustment Project. Give them a big hand. So this project used modelling and ITS to predict and improve traffic flow, mitigating harmful NO2 emissions on national highways and local roads in Oxfordshire where contamination has regularly exceeded permitted levels. Using these existing ITS solutions, it could readily be rolled out across the country. And Ruth Anderson from Oxfordshire County Council, of course, from AIMSUM, is here to say a few words. Ruth. And first of all, I might as well give you this valuable, you can tell we haven't had a rehearsal for this valuable sapphire piece.
Thank you very much. Highway authorities such as Oxfordshire County Council aren't necessarily responsible for air quality. But winning this award, which was a collaborative project between Aimson and Unix and EarthSense and Oxfordshire County Council, just shows that it's really important that we as highway authorities actually think about air quality and how we can support our district councils in achieving their goals.
Thank you. We've got 3 sponsors, you know, of this evening's award. So I know we heard from him earlier, riveting stuff about the slowest journeys you can make in this country legally. But Andy, a couple of minutes to explain White Willow Consulting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. So we are in Red Hill today. That's the home of White Willow Consulting. It's a company that I founded many years ago. We specialise in connecting vehicles and roads. We like connecting old vehicles and roads because it's fun, but we also collect new ones. Many of the people in the room today I work with. So just thank you all for coming today. Very impressed with the quality of the prizes today and the awards. And thank you, Steve, for your wise words as always.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Andy. And before we go on to our next award, let's hear from another of our award ceremony hosts, Krishna Desai, ITS UK's Communications Director, and, more importantly, she's Global Marketing Manager for Cubic, and an old friend.
Thank you, Steve. Firstly, I'm really excited to be here, mainly because this is my office and I had IT issues for months, so I managed to get that fixed. But aside from that, I'm excited to see all of you. And one of the things that as you've probably seen from today, is we do a lot in fare collection and how people are travelling around a city when it comes to public transport. But we also do a lot in ITS. And for us, it's about that multimodal connection. How are people travelling, whether it's in their vehicles, whether it's in a train, whether it's shared mobility, whether it's micro-mobility, whether it's just active transport, walking, cycling. And connecting a journey from end to end is really important. And just like people's travel choices are changing, the ITS industry is changing, and we're becoming inclusive to other technologies, other players, other agencies, and also other modes of transport. So as we're growing, hopefully we can grow together and be stronger together. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Krishna. Our third award is the ITS Project of the Year. The shortlisted entries were the CAV Testbed by Amy Consulting and Transport for West Midlands and Midlands Future Mobility, the Connected Digital Roads, which is a project from Costain, and then another digital roads project by National Highways, WSP and KPMG. The judges gave a highly commended mention to the CAV Testbed, but the winner is Costain for Connected Digital Roads. Give them a hand. This project is the UK's first demonstration of how to directly influence vehicle speeds on a live motorway using connected vehicle technologies and proving the viability of this end-to-end cooperative intelligent transport service. So, David from Costain, David Collins or David Maund?
Collins.
David Collins? David, where's David Maund? Do you want to come up? Yeah. No, you're not going to shrug it off that way. There's a moment here in the sun that proves where you were at this time on this day. Anyway, the point is both Davids come and say a few words on behalf of Costain and take this award between you. Okay.
Cheers. On behalf of both the Daves and Costain, delighted to receive this award. It's great being here today, being out in the open, meeting people. And what the project did add so many synergies with what we're talking about with carbon reduction and what we did with managing the speed of the vehicle based on the road conditions and the speed of the actual road helps reduce carbon. A few thank yous. It was an Innovate UK funded project, so thanks to them and National Highways for giving us the opportunity to make it from an idea into actual workable proof of concept. And I think a special mention goes to the technical teams, the clever teams and the clever guys and girls who integrated numerous systems together to produce a really innovative end product. So cheers. Thanks.
Well done to both Davids. Well, we've got a couple of personal awards coming along, but just before that, a word from our sponsor from WSP, Catherine Whitfield, of course, who's going to just say a few words about WSP.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you very much for inviting me up. It's been so lovely to see everybody in real life today and make some new connections. I have to admit, I've probably spent most of the day meeting my own colleagues who I've never met before, so that's been particularly nice. And thank you to Cubic as well, who've been such welcoming hosts. It's been great. I think days like today make me feel really proud to be an ITS professional, because it's been clear from the talks we've had today about how we as an industry are really working together to tackle some of the biggest issues that we face as a society. So not only climate change and things like increasing carbon, etc., but also we've heard a lot about inclusivity as well, which has been really lovely to hear. At WSP, obviously, we've done lots of work recently. I know Tom and my colleagues mentioned it earlier on in terms of looking at the reducing carbon and how ITS can help with the decarbonisation of road transport. But also, I think it's that understanding that actually ITS is about more than just technology. It's about that whole systems approach, something that one of our winners has just talked about. It's about people and places and how you connect those things together. And I think that's the real true value of an organisation like ITS UK, who do such a lovely job at bringing everybody together and enabling us all to widen our offering and increase that diversity. So, yeah, thank you very much and good luck to the...
Thank you, Catherine. Well, our fourth award is the Eric Sampson Award for Early Careers Professional of the Year. I don't have to, I'm sure, remind this audience of who Eric Sampson is, an absolute stalwart of ITS UK, and the excited about the subject all those decades ago. What's great is we had a lot of really good quality entries this year, and quite a few, but we have two highly commended mentions. Rachel Mounsey of Grid Smarter Cities and Lawrence Penn of WSP. So well done to both of them. Our winners' work has been described as using a method that identifies efficiencies throughout, tweaking code to deliver a better outcome, and thinking always about whether the current approach is the most effective. His passion has been clear throughout, and he's sought at every opportunity to better serve the end user. And that, as I say, is from one of his colleagues. Working on the Midlands Future Mobility Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Testbed Project, a multi-organisation consortium advancing CAV in the West Midlands, our winner has found Data Hub, which is a central repository for static and dynamic data on the route, allocating attributes to scenes to define an operational design domain for test vehicles. So this year's Eric Sampson Award for Early Career Professional 2021 is Abdul Rahman Ali, Assistant Consultant at AMI. Abdul Rahman, come and join me. Well done. Thank you. I want to say a couple of words.
Super happy to have won this award. Just big thank you to everyone at AMI as well. The team in Intelligent Mobility is great. And yeah, I've been in the transport sector for coming up to 2 years now. And it's really lovely to see how all the work that everyone here does benefits everyone's day-to-day activities, especially with technology involved.
Thanks very much, Abdul Rahman. Sadly, Eric can't be here with us today, but he sent you
first of all,
a
with
video
congratulations
message,
to the winner and the runners-up, but also with apologies. I would very much liked to have been at this meeting, but I'm tied up with sorting out Toulouse, the European Congress next year, and finishing off some things from Hamburg the post-Congress report. But what I do want to say is that for all three of you, if you look around at your colleagues, and this is reflecting something that Stephen has said, you will be aware that there's a very good talent pool. And one of the big advantages you get is when somebody recognizes that you are in this talent pool. And that's exactly what's happened today. If I look back on my own career, I owe enormous thanks to John Miles and Neville Reece, who gave me the opportunity to do things. Well, we can't do that, but what we can do is put you on a podium and say, 1, 2, 3, here's our winner and here's our runners-up. Abdul Rahman, many congratulations. You will get something from ITS UK made of glass. I will get something to you also made of glass, but this one is hollow and has some fizz inside it. Congratulations and very well done, all of you.
Excellent. And, you know, that bottle is generally quite good quality, I can tell you, not to be ignored. As ever from Eric, wonderful to see somebody so enthusiastic still and so engaged in ITS in every respect. Well, our final award is the Reece Hills Award for Personal Contribution and Achievement, named in honour of two of the real grand names in ITS, Neville Hills and Peter Reece, who I had the privilege of knowing, two of the very early pioneers in the use of technology in transport. And it's great that this award is named after them. It couldn't be more appropriate, I promise. Well, our winner has more than 37 years of experience in transport design and consultancy, has played a leading role in many of the studies and projects that have shaped ITS in the UK, leading his company's transformational strategic projects and responsible for developing technical excellence across the UK and global ITS network. He's grown a team of 6 in 1991 to become the largest and leading ITS consultancy practice in the UK. His works included the groundbreaking M42 active traffic management pilot, creating the NIS joint venture that delivered the National Traffic Information Service and the first 2 connected corridors in the UK. He's written numerous papers and thought pieces and presented at conferences across the world. Our winner is a former chair of ITS UK, holding the position for 3 years, and prior to that, chair of our Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Interest Group. He led a small team of ITS UK experts who advised the Transport Select Committee on the potential impacts and benefits of cabs. He's an active member of PIARC, having contributed to the development of guidance for network operators on the opportunities for emerging technology and the impact of cab vehicles. He's also a member of the Transport Research Board's Managed Freeways Committee and the ICE Professionalism Panel. He's respected throughout the ITS sector for his expertise and for being, among many other things, a passionate and active advocate for diversity and inclusion. This year's winner of the Reece Hills Award for Personal Contribution and Achievement, if you haven't guessed already, is WSP's Head of Profession for ITS, Ian Patey. Ian.
Blimey. I remember Paul saying to me after last year's awards that just watch Eric's face as it suddenly dawns on Stephen's face as it suddenly dawns on him who is actually getting this award. And we had a little giggle, and I was sat at the back just a few minutes ago thinking, this isn't something to giggle about, because you just sit there thinking, oh, I'm not going to say what. So it says on here, wherever it was, about individual contribution, but all I can say is that I've only got this because of the brilliant people that I've been able to work with, and the privilege it has been, and it still is, to work with those people. And there's far too many to name, but particularly Catherine and Lucy, I think, probably had something to do with this, given what was said there. So, and that's it's just as I say, down to other people. I want to dedicate this to two people, if I can. First of all, to the person who's stood by me through all those 37 years and more, and really is the person who, behind the scenes, is my greatest supporter and advocate and also critic, and the one who keeps me going every day, and that is my wife, Catherine. And the other one is, sadly, I won't be able to show this to my mum, but just thanks, Mum, for that as well. But thanks, everybody, for this, and it's a privilege. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I think we know just how popular that award is, Ian, and massively well deserved. You've been a wonderful servant, not only to the industry as a whole, but of course to ITS as well. Well, that's virtually the end, not quite the end of this evening, certainly of the awards. So let's give all of the winners and all of the entrants a big hand this time for their success and other awards. So just before we hear from our current chairman, Jenny, I invite you to just say a couple of words.
Thank you very much, Steve. You heard from me this morning, so you don't need to hear much from me again. I just wanted to personally thank Steve for many years of wonderful support and inspiration. Some of you are new, and you will come to realise how much our president means to us. I've been around for many years. I did see the, sadly, no longer with us, first president, but only just. He was a lovely man. But so certainly is Steve Norris. So thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And before I start crying, I'll hand over to our chairman, Ryan Hood from TRL, and he will do the closing remarks, so you don't have to listen anymore to my voice. Ryan, the floor is yours.
And good evening to our listeners online. I don't think I've ever been live streamed on YouTube before, so this is a first for me as well. I'm going to start with some thank yous, and I'm going to end with some thank yous. But I'd like a few minutes in between just to put forward some of the things I really hope we can achieve over the next year. Firstly, in terms of thank yous, again, I'll say thank you to Cubic for the hosting today, and personally for the sneak peek at the new hybrid electric bikes that are in the showroom. I'd like to say thank you to White Willow Consulting, where's Andy, again for your financial support to this occasion, and for all the support you provide, volunteer effort, substantial, that goes in behind the scenes. So thank you for that, Andy and White Willow Consulting. I'd like to say again thank you to WSP for your financial support, but also the myriad of people that get behind the ITS organisation and again put in all that volunteer effort. I'd like to say thank you to all the people that submitted applications for awards, but in particular congratulations to those award winners today, and there were two in particular that I just wanted to highlight. The first one was very heartwarming, I felt, and the one that stuck in my mind as I read through the applications, and that was the Unix traffic one, Matthew, and the story about placing the pedestrian push button in somebody's garden to train a guide dog during the pandemic. I thought that was a wonderful idea that will really impact an individual's life. The second, of course, is congratulations to Ian. I think 37 years were mentioned earlier. Now, 37 years takes me back to 1984 in my head, round about that date, when I think I was still in the bedroom, gaming and possibly even coding from an early age on my Amiga 500. So just to think of that timeline is just phenomenal. Just reflecting on the past year, it's been a very interesting year. So I think we entered the year at the Brexit transition, so it moving formally to our exit from the European Union. We've clearly had the pandemic over that period, and clearly climate change has very much come to the fore over this year, and more on that in just a moment. But my highlights from an ITS UK perspective, I think there are three that really come to my mind that I just wanted to mention here. The first is the increase in membership numbers. So despite that financial backdrop and the pandemic, we have actually as an organisation managed to increase our numbers by 10%, which I think is phenomenal over that period of time. And we've seen a number of new faces, new companies that are coming into the industry as the change Steve mentioned earlier, that revolution in transport that's so often talked about, starts to happen. And I can see one of those, Intelligence, there. The second thing I wanted to mention was really about the forums and the webinars. I think during the course of the year, despite that backdrop, we've managed to continue with at least one, I'm informed, one webinar per week. And that's only down to all the forum members that volunteer their time, and of course the ITS UK team that helped make that happen. And we've had two new forums that I'd like to promote a little bit. One is a new data forum, and the second around active travel and e-micromobility. And I think perhaps some of the stories I've heard today, some active participation in those forums would really benefit those forum members. The third is around ITS World Congress. I've had great feedback from the people that utilise the opportunities, the small and medium-sized enterprises, and I think I'm reliably informed there were 11 SMEs. Through partnerships with the public sector, ITS UK was able to put a platform at ITS World Congress in Hamburg and provide an opportunity for 11 SMEs to promote their wares overseas, really supporting the UK export agenda, but in particular really supporting those innovative small and medium-sized enterprises. So they're my three highlights as I recap. But looking forward, this year has really been, in my mind, about climate change and decarbonisation really coming to the forefront of the transport agenda. As I mentioned earlier, for our colleagues in the room here, we've seen the Transport Decarbonisation Plan published with recommendations about putting in place a world-class cycling network by 2040, really promoting public transport as a sustainable alternative mode to the car, but also that electrification agenda from buses and coaches through to the private car and van, through to freight and logistics, a real challenge to decarbonise that part of our transport sector. But we haven't just been static from an ITS UK perspective during that period on this particular agenda. Firstly, we have our Manifesto Commitment, which is about promoting transport technology and the benefits of transport technology to the environment. We've put in place our Carbon Ambassador to really create a channel and a voice to the market. Keith McCabe on that front. We have our forums, and at least 4 of them touch directly on this subject, one of which we've heard from today in the Smart Environment Forum. We have our technical director, who's currently doing a review of our technical direction, just a shout out for him in Colin Wilson from IBI, who's volunteering his time to do that. And one of the things he's really looking at is how we embed the decarbonisation agenda right across all the forums. And then the final point on that, what we are currently doing, is really what was raised today in the members' day about the value of ITS campaign, which I know Paul Hutton has been very much behind. But I think we can do more. And I was talking to a colleague earlier this week, and he mentioned a forum which I've mentioned to an acronym that I've mentioned to one of or two of you today, which is ASI. Avoid, shift, improve. How can we help people avoid unnecessary journeys or reduce those journeys through the likes of concepts such as interchangeable mobility hubs? How can we help shift people from unsustainable modes to more sustainable modes with things like demand responsive transport? And how can we improve, in the case that you must use your car, how can we improve that transport system and make it more efficient? So I come back to that point again. If we fast forward from here a year to this same event, which Steve will be here as his lifelong president duties, I'd really like to see more and more of the kind of projects that we've had described at the event today. Now, I said I'd finish with some thank yous. So my first thank you, of course, is to Steve, of course, for being our president, but for hosting the event today. So thank you to Steve, please. And my second is to the ITS UK team. So Jenny, Paul, Rukshan, Wendy, Gerald, but also a special mention for somebody that doesn't get the limelight much, but I know has been the engine behind this particular event, working with Cubic, which is Rachel Louis, our events manager. So a thank you, please, to the ITS UK team. And then my final announcement is there is drinks apparently at the Beefeater pub that's round the corner, and if you're very interested, we'll be meeting by the door in the next few minutes. So please come and join us for another hour. Thank you.
That's it, folks. Just to use a popular televisual model. Well done, Paul. What we will do, if we can, is just get the winners together with their incredibly expensive sapphire jewels, so we can have a group photograph. Okay? For everybody else, safe journey home, or if you're going to the pub, even safer journey home.